Okay,
Yes.
I think we're ready to rock and roll here.
All right.
Welcome to this episode. I don't even know what episode it is of Re-Education Camp, episode number Quattro. My name is Colin Miller, being joined alongside, as always, by the incomparable, the wonderful Ms. Karen O'Toole. And boy, if you could only, Karen, if people could only hear us, the banter between us before we actually start recording, like we were just to peel back the curtain a little bit, we were talking, and I brought this up, how I kind of sort of miss the old lockdown days because there we had a built-in excuse not to leave our homes to do anything. It was glorious. Like I felt like I had the ultimate excuse as to why I was single, as to why I wasn't going out anywhere on my days off. Like it was wonderful. And sometimes I really pine for those days.
Sometimes maybe COVID was really a panacea for all the social ills that some people have. I do agree that I am a social person, but sometimes I feel like my batteries get drained and I don't want to be out and about as much. And I have a big family. So it was kind of nice not having a calendar full of baby showers and weddings that are kind of hard on the budget sometimes. So
Yeah.
yeah, although I don't, I guess I prefer freedom. I mean, some of these people got some hefty paychecks too between the stimulus. I mean, even the companies, like let's not just hate on the people that were on unemployment. I mean, some of these companies raked in like Reese Witherspoon's company, Prager University. I mean, some of these companies got these like, loans. I mean, they were just swimming in cash. And obviously, we're no longer living the life of easy money right now as the interest rates begin to increase. It seems like every quarter. But yeah, there's something to be said about it. I mean, I'm not sure. I would hate the idea of just, okay, you send money to my account and I just order Uber Eats and I just walk outside. I mean, that's pretty much my life now, except for I get to go to the grocery store and church once a week. Like that's
Yeah.
pretty much how I live at the moment.
Like when
So
people would like contact me and ask me how I was doing during the pandemic, I was like, well, I mean, my life has changed very little, to be honest with you. I was still working, fortunately, I guess. And I
you're like, although if I would have just been on unemployment, I would have made more money to just sit and watch Titanic all day.
that blows my mind that people were getting all these like when people, okay, so maybe you can explain this to me. Are you telling me, see, I didn't know that people were getting paid like their job salary during
Oh, they were
this?
getting some of these people were making more money. I know people that I had a cousin who maybe I shouldn't say cousin. I have a person I know. So the IRS will be coming after them. I have a lot of cousins, so God knows who it is. I had a person I know that worked a summer job, right? For maybe 3 weeks out of the year at a camp over the summer for like a county
Re-education
camp,
camp.
a re-education, yeah, for like 3 weeks out of the summer or something absurd like that, and was able to rack in like rake in like over $40,000 from a job that only paid him like $1,000 a year
What?
because he applied for unemployment. So I don't know how it worked in Florida, but in Pennsylvania, you had this additional COVID unemployment benefits. So I know another individual who was probably making $8, $9 an hour, maybe $10 an hour, probably brought in somewhere in the tens to $20,000 region, maybe less at a part-time job, who is getting paid, yeah, about $3,000 or $4,000 a month to be at home. And what happened to that person was the company actually started paying them again. And they got mad that the company, even though they weren't open, they worked for a gym and the gym opened up and just started paying them again, even though they weren't open, because I guess they got that COVID, PPP money. So they started paying the person and they were mad because they were making more money on unemployment for about like 2 years.
See, I was still in Pennsylvania when this all went down, and
Yeah.
my employer at the time, they kind of called me and some other select employees into a room for a big powwow and said, "Look, like, if you guys don't want to be here during this, it's understandable, but would you be willing to stay on?" And I'm like, "Well, what else am I doing? Like, what am I going to do? Just like
Yeah.
sit at home all day?" Which maybe in retrospect I should have. No, I shouldn't have, because it led to other opportunities down the road. But what I'm trying to say is I feel like I missed out on a lot of the perks that the pandemic provided. And there might be brighter days on the horizon, because there could be a cyber pandemic in our future. The cyber
Yes.
pandemic.
Well, I have to say, I was sick during the pandemic. I was like in and out of the hospital,
Well, what
and
else is new though?
I kind of feel like we both kind of miss. I feel like a teen, like I didn't get to go to the prom or something. Like I missed
Yeah,
graduation. Like
yeah.
we kind of missed out on all the fun that happened during COVID. Like we
Did
were
you go to
able
your
to.
prom, by the way, in high school? I
Yes,
didn't.
I did. I did.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I was the prom queen.
No kidding. Were you really?
Yeah. I for a second I could tell that you were like, that is a lie. I
No,
actually was.
it's
Yeah.
believable.
I just didn't sleep with anybody's boyfriend. So I was kind of prom queen by default. And I went to a school of only like 160 kids in a graduating class. So don't think that this was like an accomplishment.
Only
It was.
160. God, I think maybe my graduating class was
Well,
60.
yeah, that's right. You went to a private, yeah. So
I
private
went to a
school, but
ritzy
yes,
private school. I
yes.
didn't. We
So a little,
didn't.
yeah,
We didn't mix with the scum.
yeah. We, well, I mean, really,
I
I mean,
kid.
in some ways, you didn't realize you were speaking with royalty all this time. Like I'm up there with Meghan Markle, and
Pretty much.
yeah, pretty much, pretty much, Duchess of York or Duchess of Sussex or Duchess of Los Angeles or whatever she deems
We had a
herself.
golden retriever named Duchess growing up. That was my first dog.
Whoa, I actually had a dog named Duchess as well growing
No
up.
kidding.
So, and I think they spelled it incorrectly. But
I
so
can't remember how we spelled it.
yeah. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Dutch. That must have been like a cool name for it was a Labrador. And that was like our first family dog when I was a kid. So that must have been like a name back in the day. That must
Yeah,
have been
that
popular.
one of those dog names, just like people names are popular for a certain period. Like there were a lot of
Yeah.
Kellys during the
Or
uh
Ambers or Mandas. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
that's you know what? Like that just proves that we're just basic bitches.
I at at the end of the day, when I think about myself, it's like, you know what? I don't require a whole lot in life, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Like
you'll
I
just take
just
a good Starbucks, just a trip to Disney World. You
yeah,
got the
you
it's
were
all goods.
you were berating me and my entire family earlier because we are Disney annual pass holders. And I'm like, listen, I can't help it. I have been going there since I was a little kid. I like going on Space Mountain still, even though they are part of the whole depopulation agenda and are contributing to the downfall of Western civilization. What am I going to do about it? It's like, oh well, you can vote with your pocketbook. It's like, eh, they're they're going to be making. Listen, if I didn't get an annual pass, was that were they going to collapse? Like, oh, Colin Miller, he didn't get his annual pass. Oh my God! Like, that we're declaring bankruptcy now. It's like, no, they're going to exist with or without my money. And I'm here in Florida and I want to enjoy. I want to go to the parks and have a little fun, man. What's
Well,
wrong
I
with
mean, if you're
that?
going to be in Florida, you might as well. You might as well.
I have
And
a universal annual pass too. I love it. I love going to the
yeah,
theme parks.
I
Always
mean,
have.
even if Mickey is out to castrate children and put them in little boys in dresses, I mean, That's collateral damage.
Just get on with it at this point.
Yeah, just get.
It's what I say. That's the kind of mood I'm in. Just get on with it.
Do I get a speed pass to Space Mountain? Then so be it. I mean, if that is a sacrifice Collin is willing to make, if it means that he can have brunch underneath Cinderella's castle with Mickey and Minnie. He doesn't care if Mickey and Minnie reverse genders. He doesn't care if Mickey comes out in a thong, if Minnie comes out in pasties. It doesn't matter.
No.
As long as he's able to enjoy and capture some of that magic.
Yeah.
While we're on the Disney topic, I do have to say, I definitely think I would consider doing the annual pass if I lived close to Disney. I'm not hating on that whatsoever. But I will say, growing up, we were kind of contrarians from birth and mockers. And we would always we were more like Don Bluth kids. Like we were more into Land Before Time.
I love Land Before Time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Disney is the gold standard for animated feature films, right? Like we're just, let's put that out there. But as a kid, we like to kind of not be buck the trend, me and my siblings. So we would watch The Lion King and we would root for Scar. We're like, Scar's hilarious. Why are we
Scar was pretty cool.
Yeah, we didn't like Simba. So we would make fun of Disney movies. We always thought Disney was really corny. Even when we were 6 years old, we were like, that's dumb. You know, we were just evil. We were just evil children.
I can see that.
We were actually more wicked than Disney. And sometimes we would just root for the villains. I mean, we would watch Batman and we'd root for the Joker too, because he was hilarious. So I don't know. So I mean, who am I to judge Disney when they're just trying to just promote I don't know, lies and wickedness throughout the world? But it's not really that I had a problem with. Another thing with Disney, why are always the ugly fat people the villains? We have all this fat shaming going on. Have you noticed that? Are there any Disney?
Yeah, Ursula.
Ursula, yeah. Based on a drag queen.
She was pretty chubby.
That's what they're doing. They're trying to get back for all of the evil things they did, making Ursula based on a drag queen their main villain. I mean, Scar was gay, apparently, according to the gay activists at the time.
It's pretty flamboyant.
Yeah. So maybe that's what Disney is just trying to make amends for, just making all their villains fat, ugly, and homosexual for the last 70 years. Maybe that's
now they're trying to make them the good guys. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe they're just trying to make good for they're part of the problem. And two, like I said, I'm trying to think of some of I'm not a super Disney fanatic. I'm not one of these people that I don't know.
Is Gaga over
yeah,
Aladdin?
I do have a family friend. I do know somebody that's super Disney. Their license plate incorporates Disney. They have Disney stuff all over their cars. They would go to Disney all the time. And an interesting thing about that person, so going back to growing up and not being a Disney hook, line, and sinker person, when you watch Disney, they get married and then the movie ends, right? It's always a culmination. They never show you, it's always a fairy tale. It's always based off of non-reality.
Just like life is.
Yeah,
life is a fairy tale. Yeah, my life is a fairy tale. I don't know about yours.
Yeah, but so they always just show you that. So when you're growing up as a young woman or a young girl, or identify as a girl, or whatever you want to say nowadays, you see that and you think okay, I just meet Prince Charming. I tell my dad I'm leaving. I'm gonna get legs. I'm gonna go to this drag queen with all these tentacles, and I have no voice, and somehow this guy's gonna fall in love with me because I don't say a word. I mean, of course he's gonna fall in love with her. She doesn't talk. Number one,
that's really the ultimate, a hot redhead who just keeps her mouth shut.
Yeah.
It's just she's just there in the boat looking pretty. You're rowing, Scuttle's there.
So then the premise is so like, okay, yeah. So finally, like, I guess she talks and he's like, all right, like she doesn't have the voice of, she doesn't sound like me. So he's like, all right, perfect. Let's get married. And that's the end. So you never see anything after that, except for in the sequels that are abysmal. Nobody watches, right? So it's setting you up for this idea that like, that's going to be life. Like you never see what happens after the marriage. Like you don't see when Prince Eric is actually secretly a homosexual and he's got a bunch of guys on the DL. Like you don't see when he like ran up the credit card and put them in bankruptcy and the people of his kingdom, which I don't even know what kingdom that's supposed to be. Like you don't see when they decide to Robespierre comes and writes all of these features of enlightenment, and they decide to put Ariel in a castle and then behead the entire royal family. Like we don't see those parts of reality. So when you're growing up, maybe I took that a little too far, but when you're
No, it
growing
sounds
up,
about right. Sounds
you
pretty
don't
accurate.
think to yourself, like, so this person I know that's obsessed with Disney, she's been married like 4 times. Because once reality sets in, like
She hasn't
she's in
found her
Disney
Prince Charming.
yeah, maybe she's kissed a couple. No, what I'm saying is like, she just thinks that life is a Disney movie. So the movies always end at the end when reality really sets in. When marriage begins, you're in the honeymoon phase. So she just thinks that like, okay, once things are in the honeymoon phase, like it's time to hang it up. I need to chase that fairy tale again and again and again. And I think that's kind of what those movies set up for people. So
Well,
that's just,
listen, Neuralink has been approved for clinical trials. So pretty soon, you're actually going to have that option. Like human beings are going to have that option. Like, do you want to live a real life, or do you want to go in the pod and have your brain, get the Neuralink implant and be plugged into the matrix? I mean, pretty soon you're going to be able to live any life you want in your pod plugged into the matrix. You're going to have an unlimited supply of dopamine. There's not going to be any jobs. And this is going to be a very difficult thing to resist, by the way. Like it's pure evil, it's pure Satanism, but it's going to be so hard not to take a bite out of that apple, because you could be a knight who's going to rescue the princess from the dragon in the castle. Like you can have it's just like in the Matrix. Like you will forget everything and you can live any life you want. And how many people are going to be like, no thanks, I want to continue to go to the office.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, that's an interesting point, that the Matrix, instead of it being like fun and like Ready Player One, he's just like living in some horrible office space, Groundhog's Day existence. I never thought about that before, but it's like, wait,
Yeah.
so you can come up with this whole fantasy world and all these people are just living in 1999, like just
right.
And if that's the case, that there's like this fantasy world and some people are living in 1999, does that mean people are like living in Zimbabwe and are starving and there's like hyperinflation under Mugabe? You know what I'm saying? Like like who's the sick person in the Matrix who designed the Matrix that's like, all right, well, some of these people are going to get to be Oprah in the Matrix, but some of these other people are going to have to live in a third world country.
Well, I think with this, you're going to get to choose.
You're going to get to choose. I'm going to get to choose to live in a third world country and mine for nickel. Like that's going to be my existence.
Mine for cobalt.
Mine for cobalt. Yeah. That's going to be my existence and there's going to be some freaks that are already in the I'm sorry, I'm going to come out and say freaks, and I know this might be highly offensive to furries, but that there's going to be people that choose to be like some kind of anamorphic, Robin Hood character from like the Disney. Speaking of Disney,
they can choose to be the fox.
Yeah.
You can probably choose to be like a vegetable if you want. Like if you identify as like a carrot or a celery stick, like a stalk of you can be a stalk of celery. You're gonna have that option. If you identify as a vine ripe tomato, you will have that option to live out that fantasy in the Matrix.
All right, so not that this is what I thought we were going to talk about, but what what would be your Matrix Neuralink fantasy? Like what would you be
Oh
if you had
man.
to be it? Do you
I
want me to go
mean,
first?
I would I would probably like off the top of my head, I'd be like a rich rock star. I would have like a penthouse apartment somewhere, and I'd like who would be living in this apartment? Like Elizabeth Hurley would be there, like Selma Hayek. Like it would
From like
just be like
Austin Powers, Elizabeth Hurley though, like specific era.
I like her. I
Like
think
now.
she's at her peak now.
Okay,
Like that's kind
I appreciate that. I appreciate
that
that as female power.
I
Awesome.
kind of have a thing for like the older, like I'll go up to like if you take enough Pilates classes, I'll go up to age like 60. Like
All right,
I'm
Martha Stewart on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
yeah, now we're
That's a
getting a
little bit.
little
Okay, that's pushing it.
yeah. No, I'm very vain. Is that the word?
Yeah. No, I think it's shallow. I think shallow is
Shallow. Yeah,
vain
I'm
is more about yourself. Shallow is about others, I would say. I could be wrong, but
yeah.
that's
I
yeah.
get that from my mother. We're both very shallow people when it comes to looks, and yeah, so that would basically be the premise of my Matrix world. You know, rich rock star, Elizabeth Hurley, Selma Hayek. You know, basically just like fanning me. You know, with those big leaves
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
you go.
perfect. My Neuralink fantasy is to be Karen Allen's character in Raiders of the Lost Ark. So like the
Oh,
female,
you
yeah,
would have
so
the
like
bar.
yeah, that would be in Nepal. Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
me. That's my fantasy, like that era. And just have Harrison Ford come and like we just, fight, but we're really like in love and
I can dig
we
it.
just go, yeah. So all right, well maybe sign us up, Elon. We'll be your humans. Now, you know what? When we started this conversation, I'm like, this is detestable. I would never sign up. But now I kind of thought about it. I'm like, all right. I mean, is it better than this room where I don't even have central air and I don't even have a handle? I mean, I would open the fantasy. I at least have handles on my doors. That would be kind of that would be like the lowest bar. Like, can I just
Yeah, you're
have a
not gonna have.
finish house?
And by the way, you'll be able to have any body you want too. Like I will be ripped. I will have like huge pecs, like Schwarzenegger did in his prime. I'll have
Yeah.
an 8 pack, and you won't have to worry about nutrition. You won't ever have to worry about any sort of 9 to 5. You know,
And what will happen to our real bodies?
oh, they're just gonna be like you remember how Neo
Roly
was
polies.
when Neo crawled out of the goop
Yeah.
in the Matrix, when he crawled out of his pod, he was just like his eyebrows were shaven, his head was shaven. He was just like this skinny, malnourished, so he almost looked like a gray alien, sort
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's
Well,
what we'll
yeah.
really look like, but we're not gonna know though.
We're
We're
not
just
gonna know. Yeah.
no. But in all seriousness, though, think about how irresistible that is going to be for the majority of the population. Like maybe not the Amish. Maybe they,
Yeah.
would choose to still work the land, and but for the majority of us Western pigs here, we're going to be like, hey, no 9 to 5, no bills, no sign me up, baby.
Well, yeah. And it gets to the question of like, what exactly is living? What is the human condition to live? And I feel like the immediate, like the first adapters will be the elderly and the sick. And we already see that, we have you mentioned it, something that I've had in other conversations with other people. You brought this up a couple weeks ago that you said these billionaires act as if they're never going to die. And so I think that the first people you're going to see are the people that are like actually facing their mortality, and having faced my own mortality when at a
Quit your
pretty
bragging.
relative I know. I'm just, I'm just, I'm just so glad to have had multiple organs. I can see that. I mean, I understand. So like, there's been times where like I had to get a blood transfusion because my blood was so low. And I remember like the feeling afterwards and like going from feeling horrible to feeling great. And it kind of made me entertain the idea of like adrenochrome, or you see Peter Thiel supplementing with younger people's blood. Like the idea is not that foreign. Like when I had that blood transfusion and the way I felt after it, I'm just being honest and thought, oh my God, I feel so much better. Like if I could do this and have this all the time and just boost my blood counts a little bit and feel better, I might not decline that, and obviously I wouldn't. One of the things that comes with blood transfusions, of course, is the risks that are involved that you don't know where. But for these people, I'm sure they're paying people that are reputable. They know who they're getting the blood from. And so I think that's where you're going to see it. You're going to see these billionaires. I mean, if Bill Gates tomorrow would trade places with you, and you might
oh my
think
God,
that's crazy.
He'd be so miserable.
But he would know. I'm saying he would trade bodies with you, maybe, but because you're younger, because he would. And I think even in your circumstances, he would trade places with you because as long as he could retain the knowledge that he has, he would do it because you have more time than he has. The money is not the problem. It's the time I mean, for all of us, we should all recognize that our time is valuable. And if you're listening to this podcast right now, I appreciate you spending some time with us. But I hope that this is elevating whatever frequency you're on, or at least entertaining you and taking you away from whatever monotony that you live that is not the Neuralink life sphere. But like I said, so I think that these individuals will be the first adopters because they do want to live forever. They do not want to die. I mean, you look at like George Soros. I think we were talking about him last week about how he came out and was like, "Oh no, I'm still alive and well," and he's still. I think that part of that is, like I said, having kind of faced death myself. The way I felt was that, okay, I didn't do enough. Like I didn't make enough of an impact is how I felt. I remember my parents coming over my house, and I just remember crying and just thinking to myself, like, I wasted my life. I haven't done enough things. I haven't done the things I wanted to do. So, being a Christian, what that translated to me is actually that, like, I didn't love people enough. Like, that's the way I felt. Like, I feel like my own personal belief and my own personal understanding is that, God is love. And Jesus said that, they say the greatest of these is love. And to me, I just felt as if when I was really facing that possibility of death, I just felt like I didn't do enough for other people and I didn't love people enough. And I think that the way that we kind of live on is by the love that we give for others, that we point to Christ, and that you kind of live on by that footprint you leave on to other people, if that makes sense. Because if I died tomorrow, my existence would continue in the things I did for other people. That really, like, to me, is my existence. Like, that is who we are. Is not necessarily the things we own, aren't necessarily the things that we have or what we accomplish. In some ways it is what we accomplish, but it's really the memory and the imprint we leave on other people, because they retain our memory of us, and that keeps us alive in a sense. I don't know if we're getting into some crazy philosophical realm here, but like, to me, that was how I felt, was that if I had done more for other people, if I'd been more sacrificial, if I'd been more loving, I would have led a greater existence. And that was what I was so afraid of. Now, I feel like people like George Soros and Bill Gates, I don't necessarily think that they think they're evil. Like, I think that some people get this idea, especially in the right, that like they are evil. No, it says in the Bible that we are all righteous in our own eyes. Bill Gates and George Soros think that they're doing good for the world, whether or not that's twisted, that they have the information wrong, but they think they're doing everything right. So I think that what they're afraid of is twofold. I think that they are egomaniacs in a sense and megalomaniacal, that they can do so much and that they can control so much. And that's why they want to continue to live. And that's why they continue to do things as if they are going to be alive forever, because it's like they are forcing their will upon the world, whether or not they're going to be here or not. You know, like George Soros, like you can't deny how much he's impacted just America in the last 30 years. And that legacy, whether or not he dies tomorrow, isn't going anywhere. And I think that that's number one, what they're looking to do. And I think there's maybe a little bit of hedonism involved with that too, that it's like they want to continue to have pleasure. I think that Bill Gates is somebody that is so unsexual to me. Like there's just something like he exudes like lack of sexuality. And I think if maybe you've seen on the Daily Mail and some stuff recently in the last week about like the affair he had with this like bridge player, which is like also the most unsexual thing I've ever heard.
Yeah,
Like
the Russian bridge player.
yeah, like I guess he like had an affair with this young bridge player, which I was like I'm not even really sure what bridge is.
I'd like to have an affair with a mahjong player.
I was like, what the hell does that even mean?
I have no
like,
idea.
At least like chess is like a little sexy. It's like bridge is like nothing. Yet again, kind of falls in line with that's like on brand for Bill Gates. It's like
sleeping with the shuffleboard instructor, kind of, you know?
Exactly. You're like, what the hell? Like, but I'm just saying that, like, I recently saw that he had this affair. Like, it shocked me that he had an affair because, and I know this isn't the first affair he had or sexual harassment, like waters that he's been involved with, which just is amazing to me that Bill Gates has any sexual proclivities, because he literally looks like a frog. Like he looks like Kermit the Frog dressed up as Mr. Rogers. You know what I mean? Like
He reminds me of a Sneetch from Dr. Seuss. Remember the Sneetches?
Yeah,
they have kind of like a big belly. Like he's got that Sneetch build. He's got the big belly, and he's got like he's got like about like a B cup at this point, I would say.
Yeah, he's just so repulsive looking in any way, shape, or form. So, but I'm saying there is maybe that element too, that it's like there's some kind of hedonistic desire to continue to live and have pleasure. So those are just some thoughts.
Do you think that these people do you think that these people believe in God or the concept of a God? Do you think that one of the reasons they want to live forever is for fear of what might happen when they die? I mean, I think that has to be an element of it, right?
You actually just read my mind. I wasn't even going to go into that, but because I was like, oh God, now we get into this whole theological conversation. But yeah, I do think that that's part of it, that they, I don't know Bill Gates or George Soros to be anything but atheist. So if they really do believe that the world was just created by some cataclysmic big bang and that we're all just accidentally here, yeah, I think that you don't think that there's anything beyond the great beyond. You just become carbon matter. And yeah, I would think that that would be a big motivator for them, that they're not at good terms with what happens after they die. So yeah, so then the idea that you want to live forever is a lot more, I guess, appealing. Whereas if you do believe that there's a hereafter, you're not really interested. Although I don't remember reading in the Bible that you get to come back as a rock star with Elizabeth Hurley. So maybe that is Nirvana.
That's the other thing I was going to bring
really
up. Like,
saying that.
if you choose to go into the pod and be plugged into the matrix, I think that in order to resist that temptation, you would probably need to actively remind yourself that that is most, I mean, that would completely cut you off from God, wouldn't it? Because in effect, you are, but by
You are
doing that,
God.
by choosing that, you are effectively being your own God, which is like the antithesis of everything that uh, Christianity preaches, certainly. So that would be one of the ways that I would resist the temptation. I'd be like, now, Colin, I know that you're, envisioning nights with Elizabeth Hurley and Selma Hayek, and who else could go on that list? Jennifer Lopez and Shakira. Like, it would probably completely destroy your afterlife. I mean, in effect, it would be like saying, like, as a Christian, it would be saying, like, yeah, Jesus, I know that you suffered and died on the cross and you were scourged at the pillar, but listen, I'm going into the pod, and this is going to be my forever. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
maybe it's the mark of the beast. Maybe that's why it
You are going
normally.
to need, I believe that companies eventually, as this thing becomes more popularized, I mean they're going to roll it out with um people who are paralyzed can walk again, people with spinal cord injuries. And I'm all for that. Like, I do believe that God gave people a brain to come up with these inventions to help
Yeah.
people walk again and to help people see again. I think all that's wonderful, but you know damn well that it is going to go down the path of, companies requiring you to have these implants for employment. That is ultimately where it is going to be headed. You know what I mean?
Or to exist in society, because we might not necessarily need employees, but we might need just
Right.
social constructs of
It'll
humanity.
start off with like companies requiring it, though, I think, for their employees, and then eventually it's going to be like, well, to come into the grocery store or to attend this concert, and the vaccine passport thing, that was kind of like a trial for where this is ultimately headed, which is mandatory brain chips.
Yeah. Well, it's something to look forward to. I mean, I guess we're just gonna have to maybe have to rough it out with the Amish. We're just gonna be hanging out with the Amish people. And sometimes I think about that though. I was out in Amish country last weekend and I was like, man, these people are ready.
Wouldn't
They
it be
are
such a
so
relief,
ready.
though, in a sense, like if you had to leave this whole metropolitan life, and you had to go be like you ever see For Richer or Poorer with Tim Allen and Kirstie Alley,
Yes,
where
yeah, yeah.
they were like on the lam and they had to pretend to be Amish. Like,
Uh-huh.
if you had to give all of this up, it would almost be like a relief in a sense, like, oh, thank God I don't have a stupid iPhone that I have to be like pulling up Instagram and Twitter. Like, what a waste of time this is. Like, I'd rather be milking the cow. I'd rather be churning the butter or raising the barn or whatever else they do. Like, it would be almost like a weight lifted off of my shoulders
Almost
if
like
I
a
had to be
more
Amish.
satisfying life. I think that's I think
Yeah.
that's what it, and I think that that's actually kind of getting back to what we were talking about. Um Oddly enough, it kind of circles back because it's like, well, what is living? Like, what is the actual nature of living and this condition of life? And that's a really good point because we almost get a glimpse. Excuse me.
Don't die
Wow,
on
that
air.
sounded
That would
so
be
bad. I'm like, give me the Neuralink, Elon.
sign me up.
Sign me up. I need the cure. But yeah, so I kind of goes back to our conversation about that. Like, we already see a glimpse of what it's like to live a digital life. And I think maybe that's a good question to start out with. Like, do you enjoy your digital life now?
No, my
And
neck
yeah,
hurts because
yeah.
it's no, I
No,
I
you're gonna
hate
get
it.
tech neck. You're gonna get wrinkles on your
Oh my
neck.
God.
Yeah, you can't do
Oh,
that
I'm gonna
anymore.
get like a turkey
You
gobbler.
have to hold it up here so that you don't get the tech neck.
Oh my God, you're freaking me out.
imagine what if in the future, like as we human evolves, like what if like the children start to like our necks are like that, like our necks, like as we evolve with like our phones and we're just like, but just thought. But what I'm saying is like, yeah, like how do you feel about your digital life now? Like, do you get fulfillment out of being on Instagram, on being on Facebook? Like, do you get, like you were saying about the endless stream of dopamine? Do you get real satisfaction from the dopamine you hits from scrolling Instagram, from scrolling Reddit? Like, how do you feel about your digital life as it is right now? Because that's only, and if maybe you play video games, maybe you play, what's that, Animal Crossing, like maybe you're super involved in World of Warcraft, if people still do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so
Oh man.
how do you feel, how is that digital existence now, and what do you feel about it? So I don't know, for me personally, I've never really enjoyed any of that. Like, I played video games, like, I mean, like, I really like Jack and Daxter and Spyro and Crash Bandicoot as a kid, but
I like
I
Roller
don't,
Coaster Tycoon.
yeah,
Remember that?
yes, yeah.
That was the best.
But I wonder if, like, I guess if you don't know that you're not in a real human, like you're not, like, maybe we just don't enjoy that right now because we wake up or you're on Facebook for an hour and you get off Facebook and then you realize like life is kind of passing you by. But if you take out the fact that life is passing you by and that is your existence, maybe it won't feel as kind of dirty as it does now. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if dirty is the right term. Do you get what I'm saying? I don't know. Maybe dirty, but guilty. Guilty is probably how you feel. Like, you feel like, oh, I just
It is a
wasted.
feeling of guilt. It's like, oh my God, why am I staring at this little baby television,
Yeah.
wasting precious moments of my life, just making myself more depressed, more unsatisfied with my own existence because everybody portrays who they want you to see on social media. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody looks like they're living, some sort of exciting life,
Yeah.
when in reality, like, you're not seeing like the violent altercations that they're having with their boyfriend behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like, that's not being posted on social media.
Unless you're Steve Crowder.
But, well, I mean, did he post that or was that linked
I
or
think that was
leaked?
somebody leaked that.
One thought I had when you brought up video games, I just have to
Yes,
get this
yeah.
out. It gave me the thought. I don't know if you are aware of. Do you know Hogwarts Legacy, that new video game?
I don't like to speak of that because it's a bigot game.
That's true. It is a white
I'm kidding.
supremacist game.
I'm
What
kidding. I'm kidding.
if you're plugged into the Matrix, you are going to be able to go to Hogwarts and be sorted into a house, and you'll be able to have the wand and be like Wingardium Leviosa. You will be able to live like the whole Harry Potter wizarding life. Damn, that is going to be very tempting for a lot of people. I mean, I'm just thinking about it
Not
right
for some
now.
people because of like how bigoted J.K. Rowling is. Like, I feel like for some people that's not even going to be a temptation anymore.
Yeah,
But
I
for
mean, she
others,
is,
it will be.
a bigoted transphobic,
Yeah.
just horror.
They won't have her in the Neuralink. They'll be like, no, 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 Hogwarts. That one's not available.
Well, they'll just
That's in the conservative version. That's clunkier and not as good. It doesn't work as well. That's in
right,
Dorka Link.
right. There's going to be two versions, obviously,
That's
the
in
liberal
MAGA
version.
Link that Trump just put out.
Yeah, Mega Link, it's the best. Elon, Elon's Neuralink is failing. Mega Link is far
Yeah,
superior. Just like Truth
actually,
Social. It's
did
a
you
horrible
see
Trump impression.
did you see Trump's like video he put out mocking DeSantis's Twitter announcement, as we're talking about Elon and Trump?
That was so funny. That
When
it had like Klaus Schwab, George Soros, Adolf Hitler, the devil, like they were
Well,
all
there was
there.
that one, but I really liked the one where it was like showing Trump walking on stage. There was like a lesser known one, and it was like it was just, I'm proud to be in America. And it's just Trump like walking on stage, and then it would cut to like the Elon Musk one, and it was like real just stupid, and then it would cut back to Trump just walking on stage with some music. It was oh my gosh. I didn't realize that Hitler one was officially the Trump campaign put that out.
Oh yeah, they
Oh my
his
God.
official Instagram account hosted that. And the funniest part about it was that
That's
Dick
pretty
Cheney was
rough.
also Dick
Dick
Cheney
Cheney
was also in
was
the
on
chat,
it.
and he just kept coughing. All you heard was
That he shoots his friend when he's trying to shoot the bird.
right. He shot his friend right in the face, and the friend had to imagine that the friend had to apologize to Dick Cheney.
That's how you know
Like,
you're powerful. You can shoot
holy
somebody in the face and they have to apologize to you. That's how you know that guy started some wars. But yeah, I didn't realize that was an official Trump thing. That is so crazy. Like
yeah.
that kind of makes me a little like nervous to vote for Trump. But I'm sure for
We,
some people that's like a bonus. It's like, yeah, I'm definitely voting for him.
by the way, I kind of do want to talk about some election stuff
Yes, yeah, we need
because
to get into that for a
if
couple
you're like
minutes here.
me and you're, constantly opening up Twitter every few minutes, just like Elon intended, like,
Mhm.
oh my God, the environment is already it's unbelievably toxic. And what month is it now? We're in the month, we're going into
May,
June.
June, yeah.
It's June 2023. Like, we still have such a long way to
Way to go.
go.
Yeah, when is
And
the Iowa caucus or the Iowa hoedown or whatever the heck they do over there?
it should be they should do like square dancing or line dancing or
Yeah,
something.
and like so many people have pointed out for like the longest time that like Iowa is like the worst representation of the country. There's like it's like 99.9% white people that are
Where
probably
is
all.
Iowa?
I sometimes have thought about that too. I know where Iowa is, but I just recently, that's funny that you mentioned that because I just recently thought to myself, like, I know nothing about Iowa except for the Iowa caucus. Like, there's like literally nothing. Maybe they have cornfields. Like, and I hate to hate on anybody from Iowa. I'm sure it's like a great place. Like, I would love to visit. Um,
Really? Would you? Come on.
like, if I had a choice between like Iowa and like Kansas, I'd still pick Kansas because it's in the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I would pick Kansas for sure.
It just has a cooler name too. But maybe like Iowa should do a rebrand and come up with a new name. Like they should just let people vote on like
Yeah,
a
like
new
vote,
name. Yeah.
go online, and we'll put up a Twitter poll, and
Yeah.
like people, that's how
People
we'll
can
rename
vote.
the state.
But yeah, so Iowa is probably like it's forever away. It's got to be in the night. I guess Pennsylvania votes in like April, I think, of next year. So I guess Iowa must be like in the end of summer this year, is how that works.
I
Oh
know.
God, this is
Wait a minute.
embarrassing. Let's
No,
see.
there's no way that anybody's voting this year, right? It's all
Iowa.
next year.
Well, they also don't actually vote in Iowa. They just caucus. They
Oh
don't
yeah,
vote
right.
usually.
They
Iowa
caucus, which
caucus. Oh yeah, it's
isn't that
2024. Yeah.
isn't that basically like a bunch of people? It's like two groups shouting over each other. Isn't that the gist of a
Yeah, it's like
caucus?
people like hang out and
It's like
drink
whichever
beer.
group can be the loudest is the
So it'll be
winner.
in early 2024. Interesting that when you look up Iowa caucus, it only says Republican caucus. Oh
That
no, Iowa
is
Democrats say they will hold a 2024 caucuses. It's on the
wow.
same
I
day
know
as
that they changed the
Republicans.
opening. They changed that, the Democrats, at least. It used to be that New Hampshire would vote first. Now they changed it to South Carolina,
Yeah.
which is like basically Biden country. I mean, he's got the party bosses there. They've
In South
got
Carolina, these
yeah.
people
Because
are a
remember,
disappointment.
yeah, Biden won South Carolina like overwhelmingly in when he was in the last Democratic
Oh, in the
primary.
prime. Okay, okay. I was
Yeah, 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 in the
now.
primary.
Now, so what's kind of the word on the street for Trump DeSantis? Like, what do you think? Like, you see these polls, and you see this stuff, but like, what are you getting an idea? Because I know you listen to a lot of different like conservative and independent pundits. Like, where's everybody going?
I do.
What's
I'm on Twitter a lot, and I do listen to a lot of different
yeah,
podcasts. Here's my own like personal individual take on it. Number one, the DeSantis influencers on Twitter are the most toxic group of people I have ever seen in my entire life. Like, you cannot bring up you cannot criticize Lord Ron at all. And I have to be careful with what I say on here
yeah, because you
because
are in Ron's state. He might
I
come
am
for
in his
you.
state, and he
Did
did
you
sign.
register as a blogger or whatever?
He did sign those anti-free speech laws for Florida while he was in Israel. Um, here's the thing about Ron DeSantis. His entire following and his entire mystique and aura is simply because he was the first governor of a major state to change his tune in a brash manner on COVID policy when it was politically convenient. Like a week before, he was out at Publix, all masked up, telling you to get your Pfizer and Moderna injections. And then all of a sudden, it's politically convenient. He holds his finger in the air and sees which way the wind is blowing. And he is the first governor of a major state to change his tune. And he also has that association with Trump because when he was on the verge of losing to the crackhead here in Florida, I forget the guy's name. I just know he smoked crack, I think. Which, if I'm not begrudging anybody who smokes crack, but
he didn't inhale.
Right, just like Bill. He was on the verge of losing to him, so Trump comes out, gives him the endorsement. He wins by a slim margin. 2022 wasn't much of a contest down here with Charlie Crist as the Democratic nominee. Ron was always going to win overwhelmingly. But the point that I'm trying to make here is Florida was always like a desirable state that people wanted to live in, no matter who the governor was.
Yeah.
People always wanted to come here because why? Because there's nice weather and the taxes are low.
Yeah.
And I really can't think of anything like, oh, DeSantis fought for our freedom during COVID. Like, no, Florida, believe me, Florida was locked down just like all the other states. The only other state
are snowbirds. I remember them leaving. And
I hate them, by the way.
Florida was like having checks when you drove into the state. If you were from like outside, they had like checks as you were coming.
Oh yeah.
in.
Yeah, there were still you can find footage of people being arrested on beaches and stuff during the early COVID days. I mean, no, make no mistake about it. Florida did lock down. But again, DeSantis's whole appeal is based upon this concept of perception is reality. He branded himself as the pro-freedom, anti-lockdown governor, and he kind of whitewashed history in a sense. And let me just say this last thing here.
You're more of an expert on this than I am.
Well, expert.
Expert.
My first red flag. Well, really, my first red flag is when last year sometime I was I was looking into going on a cruise, but there were vaccination requirements, and I was like, wait a second. I thought that we banned vaccine passports down here. I guess like the cruise lines were exempt or something.
Aren't they maritime?
I don't know how it works, but I thought that yeah. And then the biggest red flag for me was when he won re-election. Who was standing behind him with a smile, with a big fat grin on his face? Good old Jeb Bush. Yeah. And that is where all of the big neocon donors are placing their bets. They're placing their bets on Team DeSantis. Now, I'm not saying that Donald is perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he showed during his presidency that he could be bought out by big pharma just like the rest of them. However, which guy do you think is more likely to do or at least attempt to do some damage to the permanent bureaucratic state in this country? The guy who's got Jeb Bush and Mitt Romney support, or the guy who they're trying to put in prison? I'm placing, with as many faults as he has, I'm placing my bets on the guy who they're trying to actively lock up so he can't run. Call me crazy.
Yeah, I think that that's kind of what it comes down to me too. Like one of the reasons, I have people that are like, "You voted for Trump," like they're in shock, which I guess they should be. But like I had somebody recently saying about how like some of the vulgar comments Trump has made over the years, and I said, yeah, I completely agree with you that he's completely obliterated any sense of decorum in this country. I'm not disagreeing with that, but one of the reasons why I yet again voted for Trump a second time was because of the unprecedented level of attacks to stop this guy. And to me, it's almost like an enemy of my enemies is my friend, right? Like if there's this fever pitch to stop this guy because he says vulgar things, he wasn't that radical. When you look at, I mean, some of the policies, maybe some people could consider some of it radical, but I mean, outside of maybe I don't want to say I don't even say any policies because people will be quick to be like, well, what about this? What about that? I really think if you look at a lot of what he did, they weren't that radical. And there were some things that even the left appreciated, like the prison reform, right? And I have a hard time believing that people hate him so much just because he said some things on Access Hollywood. Like I really struggle to believe that's the motivation behind stopping Trump. I cannot get behind that the left and right hate him so much. And that's why he's popular. That's why people vote for him, because I guess he just, and from the get-go in some of those debates, he kind of told people the way it is. He kind of pulled back the curtain.
He's the
And
first president to tell the truth, basically,
yes,
about how
yeah,
things work.
yeah. And I think that that's the reason why, like, yeah, he's an absolute crazy egomaniac narcissist, like, duh. Like, but I think that people just appreciate that he's an overt narcissist instead of a covert narcissist. And yeah, I just think that that's the reason why he's so popular now. Obviously, I think that the reason why DeSantis is running, and I think that there's a lot of momentum behind them, is because the old guard Republicans, they want somebody that they can control. They want somebody that's going to, okay, like this guy, he's not keeping Raytheon happy. Trump was not keeping Lockheed Martin happy. We need somebody to put in there that's, he really wanted to close the border. Newsflash, it's 2023. If you still think the Republicans want to shut the border down, you're out of your mind. Okay. They want the cheap, the Republican donors, the big guys, they want the border open. They want the cheap labor. They want the wars. They want the money. And DeSantis is the kind of guy that's going to shake hands, is going to do the things that they want him to do and keep business as usual moving forward.
He's a prototypical Republican politician who again created a mystique, an aura surrounding him because he changed his tune on COVID.
And he concerns me more. I have a family member that's gone like super liberal, from like done a total 180. We were having a conversation this weekend, and I said, honestly, like he concerns me more than Trump. And she said, like I said, she's pretty liberal. She goes, you're right. She goes, it's pretty bad, but he makes Trump look good. So you might even have some liberals voting against DeSantis. So it should be interesting to see. But we've got a long way to go. So we'll have more to look forward, more to talk about before we decide to get into the Neuralink and live our privileged furry fantasies.
or your Wizarding World fantasy, or your Elizabeth Hurley fantasy, or whatever tickles your fancy.
Spider-Man fantasy.
Yeah, the possibilities are limitless.
All right, well, something to look forward to. So, well, I think that just about does it for today. I don't think that this went anywhere that we had
expected
to go.
That's the beauty of it, though.
That is the beauty of it. That is the beauty of it. So I hope that people can just, I don't look to really educate, instruct. or control anyone or indoctrinate anyone. I just look to kind of keep people company before they come and lock me away. That's really all I'm looking to do.
Yeah, that's literally the entire premise of this humble little podcast called ReEducation Camp, exclusively on Rumble. So, on that note, we thank you, fine folks, for spending your invaluable time listening to our inane ramblings, and take care of yourselves and your families, and prepare, stock up, and we'll see you next week right here on the ReEducation Camp.